Hey everyone, Mitch coming in from the Commander Score Studio. Welcome to the show. So, today's episode comes to you courtesy of my amazing patrons. Once a month, patrons vote on what Commander they'd like to see in an upcoming episode, and the Commander that gets the most votes wins. And the Commander that got the most votes for this episode is Nahiri, Forged in Fury, a fantastic commander. One that I think people are sleeping on a little bit so far. I mean, this is a brand new commander from Aftermath, and it's quite exciting. Let's jump into it. A 5/4 core artificer for 4 red and a white, but you're probably never going to spend that to cast Nahiri because Nahiri has affinity for equipment, so it's going to cost 1 less to cast for every equipment you have. So yeah, Nahiri can cost as little as just 2 mana, and keep in mind, even if you're paying commander tax, that reduction can help with that as well. So even if Nahiri is dealt with, you can get that reduction to not have to pay that extra 2 every single time. On top of that, though, whenever an equipped creature you control attacks, exile the top card of your library. You may play that card this turn. You may cast equipment spells this way without paying their mana cost. That is a massive, 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 impactful ability, essentially. Hey, when you're attacking with your equipped creatures, and again, you go to get a benefit for having equipment in play, there you go. You are going to get extra, I would say, again, card advantage, but it's, temporary card advantage. It is, impulse draw, which is fantastic, especially when you get to cast your equipment for free, because, yeah, there's some really good equipment out there that you can really take advantage of with this, and there's also equipment that, well, might bring a friend with them, so you can get even more cards next time. So let's talk about those cards here in a little bit after I discuss the budget with you. Every single card in this deck outside of the commander, which is around $5, is less than $1, so it's a very budget-friendly deck. According to Moxfield, the estimated cost is $27.14. Now, keep in mind that does not include the cost of basic lands, but, your friends or LGS might have some of those for you, or you might already have some for yourself, or you can just buy in bulk, or, buy them for cheap anyways. Also, this does not include the cost of shipping, so keep that in mind. That being said, you might be able to save even more by buying this deck on TCG Player and utilizing heavily played damage cards, which, of course, need a home too. And if you are interested in this deck, make sure you check out that deck list link in the description below. Now, with all that said, let's jump into the tactics where I'm going to show you how this deck works and how we're going to win with it. We're going to start things off with tactic number 1, which I'm calling Rock On. And of course, first up, there's Wayfarer's Bauble. Pay 2, sacrifice it. Go get a basic land into play tapped. I love you, Wayfarer's Bauble. Thank you. Great land ramp for any color combination. Next up, Everflowing Chalice, a very flexible mana rock. 2 mana, we can tap for 1. 4 mana into it, we're going to be tapping for 2, etc., etc. Basically, get half the amount of mana back that you put into it. It's a very flexible mana rock that can help us out in a lot of situations. Not quite as flexible, but still very good. Arcane Signet can tap for either of our colors, comes out of play untapped. And of course, we're also going to be running our Boros Signet. Pay 1 into it, it taps for our guild's colors. Then we've got Felwar Stone, which can tap for our colors most of the time. Lickle Metal Torque, which can tap for a colorless, but we can also tap it to make target non-land permanent into an artifact till end of turn. That can be actually a very, very impactful thing. If someone casts, say, a Vandal Blast, essentially, something like that, we can turn a creature or something else pesky into an artifact to get it taken out. Then we've got Mind Stone, tap for a colorless, pay 1 tap, sacrifice. Again, we are in a 2-color deck. We can utilize these, mana rocks that just tap for, a colorless. It's fine. We've got plenty of other mana fixing. Then we've got Prismatic Lens. Speaking of fixing, can tap for a colorless, pay 1 into it, it filters our mana. And then we've got Talisman of Conviction, a great talisman. Tap for a colorless, tap for either of our colors, 1 damage to us, not a big deal at all. And then finally, not a mana rock, but a fantastic creature for this deck, Danth Capuchin Paragon. 2/2, First Strike, Vigilance, Lifelink, so a great creature to attach equipment to. And on top of that, hey, aura and equipment spells you cast, as well as cast, almost said artifacts, that'd be even better. Regardless, equipment spells casting, costing 1 less to cast, we got there, is huge, because again, yes, we can cast a lot at the top of our library, but if there are those in our hand, we still get a cost reduction thanks to this, so we can flood the board with equipment in absolutely no time. And speaking of equipment, let's move on to tactic number 2, which I'm calling Bring a Friend, and these equipment are great at bringing a friend with them. So first up, we've got a very simple piece of equipment with Flayer Husk. It's got living weapon, so when this enters the battlefield, we get a 0/0 creature that this attaches to. And the equipped creature gets ++1. Very simple, but again, keep in mind, with this commander, we like going wide, we like getting equipment attached, we like swinging with equipped creatures, because then we get even more card advantage out of this, essentially. Well, temporary card advantage / free equipment spells. So when we are casting those equipment spells for free, we are very, 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 very incentivized to play equipment that might come with a little friend attached to them already. So then, next turn, we can swing for even more. So yeah, Flayer Husk, even though it's a very simple piece of equipment, it is fantastic. On the other end of things, we've got 4 Mirrodin, which is somewhat similar to Living Weapon. When it enters the battlefield, you get a 2/2 red rebel creature token, then attach this to it. So a slightly larger creature, which is nice. The equipped creature gets +1, -1. So basically we're getting a 3/1, which is nice as well. It's very simple to equip just one. Again, either, living weapons or, these 4 Mirrodin cards are great with this commander because they can help us go wide quite quickly, especially when we're casting them for free off the top. And then we've got, kind of like a weird edge case called Barb Spike. This does not have either, but when it enters the battlefield, we get a 1/1 Thopter, and this attaches to it. +1/+0 for that Thopter. So a nice little flyer for us. Regardless of what direction we go with all of these, yeah, hey, it's another piece of equipment that comes attached to a creature. That is going to be a fantastic way to go about this. So we also have other, equipment that we're going to talk about really quick. Living Weapon, Batter Bone, +1/+1 Vigilance, Lifelink. Then we've got Glimmer Lens, 4 Mirrodin, again, so that 2/2 Rebel. Whenever equipped creature attacks, whenever equipped creature, at least one other creature attacks, draw a card. Some great card advantage here. And of course, on top of our Commander's card, temporary advantage, we've got other fantastic ways to generate card advantage outside of this. Moving on, we've got Hexgold Halberd, 4 Mirrodin as well. As long as a turn equipped creature has first strike and trample, this can be great, especially if we attach a lot of equipment to a creature and make them to some kind of a Voltron creature. Moving on, we've got Blade War Whip. This is huge. Equipment abilities of your other equipment cost 1 less to activate. Equipped creature has double strike, so this can help one of our creatures hit incredibly hard. And also, again, when our equipment is unattached, we can attach it for even cheaper. Next up, 4 Mirrodin with Gold Warden's Helm. Equipped creature gets +0/+1. Then we've got Nettle Cyst. This is huge. Living Weapon. Equipped creature gets ++1 for each artifact and or enchantment you control. We might not have a lot of enchantments in this stack, but my goodness, the number of artifacts around in play is huge. This can make any of our creatures into a massive threat. And of course, this chick's gonna be a massive threat when it comes into play. And yeah, Bone Horde, also a massive threat as the game, goes longer. The bigger and bigger this is gonna be. Living Weapon, equipped creature gets +X/+X for X number of creature cards in all graveyards. So, well, yeah, again, with just creatures dying, this is going to get bigger. And of course, yeah, for playing against a mill strategy, self-mill especially, this can get absolutely huge. Hexgold Hover Wings, very simple. Creature has flying. Creatures you control that are equipped get +1/+0. So a great Anthem effect on top of a way to make a creature evasive. That's fantastic. Then we've got Kemba's Banner. Speaking of that, hey, equipped creature gets +1/+1 for each creature you control. Instead of it, being like an Anthem that goes wide, this is one that just, hypercharges one creature. And yeah, again, it just comes attached to a creature as well. So this can just be a massive threat right away. Then we've got Voltron Splitter. Just a nice little +2/+0 on that 4 Mirrodin 2/2. And yeah, we also have Dragonwing Glider. It's basically a 4/4 right away with haste and flying because it comes attached to that 2/2 as well. And especially good is going to be Hexblade Wallbreaker. +2/+2 to the equipped creature. Again, that 4 Mirrodin, so it comes into play attached to a 2/2. Whenever the equipped creature attacks, if it's first combat, each phase of the turn, untap each attack creature after this phase, initial combat phase. Basically, extra turn on attack. That is huge. And again, keep in mind, all those attack triggers, including our commanders, can be even better with something like this. This is a massive card for this deck. Then we've got Mirren Bardashay? I think I'm saying that right. Equipped creature gets +2/+1 and has Vigilance, so a great way to keep a creature back for defense as well. And finally, we've got Scytheclaw with a Living Weapon, +1/+1. Whenever equipped creature deals combat to a player, the player loses half their life rounded up. So this is a great card to also, maybe get another equipment attached to that can give this a bit of evasion as well. Yeah, just a very, very deadly creature that our opponents have to block if they can, or they're going to be in big trouble. Now, our equipment aren't the only ways to, make creatures that we can attach equipment to. So let's move on to our next tactic. Tactic number 3, make a friend. Then first up, we've got Kemba Regent, 2/4 cat cleric. At the beginning of your upkeep, you get a 2/2 white cat creature token for each equipment attached to Kemba Regent. So again, we are going wide with our equipment, but we can also, attach a couple of equipment to something like this to make more and more creature tokens that we can then attach our equipment to. Again, we can flood the board quite quickly with equipment. We can be aggressive. We can swing out, especially with, those living weapon and those 4 mirrored in equipment. Yeah, we're not losing too much by losing, a 0/0 germ or a 2/2 rebel. And we can reattach them to something like this to make even more creature tokens. Speaking of which, Voltron, Keeper of the Flame. This one helps out in a different way. Beginning of combat on your turn, for each Ord equipment attached to this, you get a 3/1 elemental, a trample, and haste. Exile them, beginning the next end step. Make an absurd amount of tokens. Swing out, basically like lightning bolts swinging at players. Have fun with that. And then we've got Nahiri, Heir of the Ancients. Yeah, even a Planeswalker Nahiri can help out with this kind of a deck. +1, make a 1/1 core. You can attach equipment to it. So again, a way to just get a creature out. Cheat on that equipment cost that's huge. -2, look at top 6 cards of your library. Can build a warrior equipment card from among them in your hand. Yeah, extra card advantage there, which is nice. And -3, deals damage to target creature or Planeswalker to twice the number of equipment you have. Really wish it was player as well, because it'd be nice just to burninate someone's face. That being said, yeah, we can basically eliminate any creature or Planeswalker once they're set up properly. Next up, Reckless Crew, a great card for a deck like this. You're going to create X/1 red dwarf berserk creature tokens. X the number of vehicles you control plus the number of equipment you control. We don't have vehicles, but we've got equipment, and for each of those tokens you can attach equipment to it. So this can make an absurd amount of dwarves that we can immediately attach equipment to, and then again, yeah, get even more card advantage off of our commander. Speaking of which, Goldwarden's Gambit, another great card. Affinity for equipment, just like our commander, so we can cast this for 2 as well. Create 5/2/2 rebels. They gain haste for each of those tokens, attach equipment to it. Yeah, that's going to be a great effect. A great way to make a mini army right away. Again, 10 power across 5 bodies. What's not to love about that? Speaking of loving, well, let's move on to tactic number 4 with Utility Belt, with equipment that I love in this deck as well. I cannot believe Bloodforged Battle Axe is finally budget friendly with that reprint. +2/+0. Whenever quick creature deals combat to a player, you get a token that's a copy of this. So this can just basically, make more and more tokens that can spread out. This equipment can go wide on its own. And again, the more battle axes you have, the more equipment you can have, equipment attached to creatures, and the more battle axes you can make from there. So have fun with that. Next up, Masterwork of Ingenuity, a very simple, very effective card. Just 1 mana, enters the battlefield as a copy of any equipment on the battlefield, not just our own, but our opponents as well, so keep that in mind. Moving on, Lizard Blades, a creature that is also an equipment. An equipment lizard, 1/1 double strike, quick creature has double strike. This can be very impactful. And again, keep in mind, this is yet another thing that you can cast at the top of your library with your commander for free. On top of that, Cloudsail Kieran, yeah, this as well. 3/2 flying. A quick creature has flying, and you can't lose the game. Your opponents can't win the game. So kind of like a Platinum Angel type effect. So when this is reconfigured onto a creature, gross. Yeah, your opponents need to deal with that, or they're going to be in trouble. And after they deal with that, your opponent's going to attach it to another creature. So it's going to be tough for them to take you out. Speaking of taking things out, finally, we've got Brass Knuckles. I love this one, especially for a deck like this. When you cast it, copy it. So essentially, hey, the copy becomes a token of it. You get 2 for the price of 1, which again, going wide with equipment is great. And then equip creature has double strike as long as that has 2 or more equipment attached to it. It's just a very simple equip cost of 1. Again, going wide, you've got a ton of equipment in this deck. It's very, very easy to attach a lot of equipment very quickly. And again, yeah, those living weapon, those 4 mirroring creatures already come into play attached. So there you go. Just attach this to one of those. They get double strike. What's not to love about that? I should mention too, your commander can very easily become a Voltron commander in a deck like this and hit incredibly hard too with a lot of those swamp effects. So just throw one of these on your commander as well and turn your commander into like a 2-shot, if not a 1-shot KO. Now, as good as all these cards are, in my opinion, there's one that stands above the rest, and that is going to be in tactic number 5 with the Golden Pig. And the Golden Pig of this deck is Aki Battle Squad. A great card for this kind of a deck. A 6/6 Goblin Samurai for 6 mana. Whenever 1 or more modified creatures you control attack, untap all modified creatures you control after this combat phase, initial combat phase. Ability triggers only once each turn. And of course, yeah, equipment. If your creature is equipped, it is modified. So a very easy requirement for you to meet. Essentially, any of your equipment can meet that requirement, and you're going to be getting a lot of extra combats with something like this in play. And again, it's a pretty heavy hitter itself, a 6/6 that you can easily equip to make it even deadlier. Yeah, a great card in this deck. Again, the more extra combat you get, the more heavy hitting you're going to be, the more easily you're going to be able to take out your opponents, and of course, the more delicious impulse draw you're going to get with delicious equipment cast for free. So yeah, Aki Battle Squad, you are a fantastic card for this deck. Moving on, let's talk about some other works of art in tactic number 6, works of art. Some really good cards that can provide us a lot of card advantage and selection throughout the game. First up, Jorkadeen. 2/2 Trampler, when it attacks, it gets +X and will have turn X a number of equipped creatures you control. Then if Jorkadine's power is 4 or greater, draw a card. A very easy requirement to meet. This can become a massive threat in absolutely no time. Again, this deck wants to go wide with equipment. A lot of creatures attached with equipment, so this can just hit for a ton. And again, draw you cards very easily. Speaking of that, we even have equipment that can help out as well. Whenever equipped creature deals combat to a player, you may draw 2 cards. If you do, discard a card. Mask of Memory can draw an absurd amount of cards throughout the game. Give us a ton of card advantage and selection. Have fun with that. Next up, SRAM Senior Edificer. I love this art. Whenever you cast an aura, equipment, or vehicle spell, draw a card. You're going to be casting a lot of equipment. Have fun drawing an absurd amount of cards. On the other end of things, we've got Stonehaven Outfitter. Equipped creatures you control get +1/+1, so a nice little anthem there. Again, we're going to have a lot of creatures with a lot of equipment. On top of that, whenever equipped creature control dies, draw a card. Keep in mind, it does not specify non-token. So all those living weapons, all those 4 Mirrodin, even the barbed whatever Thopter one, there you go. Draw cards from them too. On top of that, Akiri Fearless Voyager. Whenever you attack a player with one or more equipped creatures, draw a card. Swing at 3 players, roll 3 of your opponents. With equipped creatures, draw 3 cards. This is a ton of card advantage throughout the game. On top of that, by paying a white, you may unattach an equipment from a creature control. If you do, tap that creature, gains indestructible on turn. A great way to protect key pieces, especially your commander. Next up, we've got Sunforger, a fantastic flexible card in this deck. +4/+0 to the creature. But we can also pay red, white, unattached, and search life for a red or white instant or sorcery card with convert mana cost 4 or less. Cast it for free. Yeah, we've got some good selections for that. So yeah, we'll get to some of those here in a bit. Moving on, Wyless Soul of Steel. 2/2 Trampler. Whenever it attacks, draw a card for each or equipment attached to it. So we can attach a couple of, not auras, equipment to this one to ensure that we are, well, making it more deadly. Again, it does have trample, and also drawing a good amount of cards from it with that swing. Next up, Astro Bearer Blades. When it enters the battlefield, basically look at the top 7 cards of your library, get equipment from them, put it in your hand, and then equipment you control have equip 1. So this is a good card selection, essentially, good card advantage with getting a card off the top of our library on that ETB. And on top of that, saving us a lot in equip costs throughout the game. Again, yes, we do have those living weapons, we do have those 4 Mirrodins that come equipped, but after those creatures get taken out, a great way to reattach them to something else very cheaply. Next up, and finally, in this tactic, Kami of Celebration, whenever a modified creature control attacks, exile the top card of your library, play a card this turn. Whenever you cast a spell from exile, put a +1 counter to our creature control. Both halves we benefit from this very well with this deck. Again, we're going to be swinging with a lot of modified creatures. Equipped creatures count. So we are going to be, well, getting even more impulse draw on top of our commander's impulse draw, basically doubling that up. And on top of that, yeah, getting to dish out counters on creatures when we're casting those cards from exile. And we're going to be doing so a lot throughout the game. But now we talked about our plans, let's move on to tactic number 7 and talk about, well, throwing a wrench into our opponent's plans with tactic number 7, Smash to Pieces. First up, we've got 3/1 Human Soldier, flashing Cathar Commando. Pay 1, sacrifice Cathar Commando to destroy target artifact or enchantment. There you go. A great way to get a creature out, surprisingly. A great blocker, kind of like a lightning bolt in a way. I mean, for 2 mana. But, to take out a creature that might be attacking you. Or, yeah, just a good way to chump block and take out an artifact or enchantment. Or, yeah, just equip things to it. Speaking of which, Citizen's Crowbar, yet another equipment that comes already attached. Enters the battlefield to get a 1/1 Citizen, then attach this to it. Equipped creature has +1/+1 and has pay a white, tap, sacrifice the Crowbar, destroy target artifact or enchantment. So again, pre-attached, which is fantastic. On top of that, a great way to get rid of something pesky in play. We can get rid of a lot of pesky things in play though with Martial Coup. Create X/1/1 soldiers of X is 5 more to other creatures, so we can wipe the board if we need to with this. We can get a good amount of creatures out there to get equipment attached to them. Then we've got Rip Apart. This is a very flexible card. Destroy, an artifact or enchantment, or deal 3 damage to a creature planeswalker, and get rid of a lot of things, essentially. Or we can get rid of basically anything with Oblation. The other target non-land permanent shuffles into the library, then draws 2 cards. This is a great panic button to say, that thing needs to go, and basically go permanently. I mean, getting shuffled in the library, it's going to be really hard for your opponent to ever get it back. Or you can do it to one of your own things as well if you really need to draw some cards, so keep that in mind. A great flexible card. Moving on, we've got Wear and Tear, also flexible, destroy an artifact or destroy enchantment, or we fuse it together to do both. And speaking of that, we got Crush Contraband. Choose both, or choose one or both. Exile artifact, exile an enchantment. Next up, we've got Fumigate, a great board wipe. Destroy all creatures, gain 1 life for each creature destroyed this way. A great way to pad our life total and reset things. And then we've got a very flexible board wipe with Austere Command. Basically choose 2. Destroy all artifacts, destroy all enchantments, destroy all big creatures, all small creatures, whatever you need to do, do it. A great flexible card with this. And finally, there's our Reckoning. Again, we've got a ton of creature tokens with this deck. We've talked about ways to make them. We've talked about equipment that make them and attach to them. Hey, yeah, convoke this out with your creatures and destroy all non-token creatures. So get rid of them. Again, Nahiri is incredibly easy for you to recast because of that affinity for equipment. So yeah, wipe the board, get her back out, swing with your tokens, and have fun with that. But we actually don't have to lose our creatures like Nahiri. So let's move on to tactic number 8 with tough stuff. Yeah, we got plenty of great ways to protect our team. First up, there's Selfless Spirit. I cannot believe this card is budget friendly. Again, it was like $8 for a long time. 2/1 flying Spirit Cleric for 1 and a white. Sacrifice it. Creature control, get indestructible on turn. A great panic button to save our team. And again, a great creature to put equipment onto. It's low to the ground. It's flying. What's not to love? Moving on, Swiftfoot Boots. Hexproof and haste away creature. Yeah, that is fantastic. A great way to protect our commander or other key piece. Oh my goodness. Okay, Thran Power Pursuit is a great card. +1/+1 to the equipped creature for each or an equipment attached to it. So that can be massive. On top of that, Ward too. A great, kind of hexproof light, essentially. So a great card for a deck like this. Rootborn Defense is a great way to protect our entire team. Populate. Again, we've got a lot of ways to make creature tokens with this stack. So get an extra creature token, essentially, and protect our creatures with indestructible until end of turn for just 3 mana. Yeah, that's great. Speaking of that, Unbreakable Formation. Also 3 mana creatures you control get indestructible on turn. But if you cast it during your main phase, get a counter on each creature and give them vigilance. So freely swing out with them and make them larger. And then we've got Tiana Ship's Caretaker, finally. Flying First Strike, 3/3. Whenever an aura equipment you control is from a grave from the battlefield, you can return that to its owner's hand to be a next end step. So that's a great way to protect our equipment as well. Get them back into our hands so that we can replay them. But now we talked about every single non-land card in this deck. Let's move on to our final tactic, tech number 9, with some great lands. And first up, there's a great land for this deck with X-Guard Armory. Enters battlefield tap, just taps for a white, but we can pay to tap and sacrifice it to go get an aura and or equipment card from our library into our hand, then shuffle. A great tutor on a land. Moving on, Buried Ruin is a great way to get an aura, an equipment. Yeah, X-Guard Armory threw me off. A great way to get an equipment back from our graveyard, back into our hand. So yeah, to sacrifice it, get an artifact back to your hand. Moving on, we've got Rogue's Passage. A great way to get a creature through. Pay 4, tap, target creature can be blocked this turn. Again, even with our commander, we can turn Nahiri into a Voltron commander if we really want to. At a certain point, it can be a 1-shot or a 2-shot KO. An easy way to get this through. And then we've got Slayer's Stronghold, another way for one of our lands to actually just pump one of our creatures. +2/+0, gain vigilance and haste till end of turn. A great way to swing right away with an impactful creature. And to make it even more impactful, Sunhome, Fortress of the Legion. Pay to tap it, and target creature gains double strike until end of turn. Again, a way to make a creature hit twice as hard. Nahiri, again, can very easily become a 2-shot or 1-shot KO, especially with something like this. Now that we talked about every single card, though, yeah, I hope that you enjoyed the episode. Again, if you are interested in this deck, make sure you check out that deck list link in the description below. Again, a massive thank you to my patrons. And of course, as always, thanks again, and have a good one. This show and episodes like this one are possible thanks to viewers like you. If you're looking for an easy way to help support this show, make sure that you like, share, and subscribe. Also, hit that bell notification icon so you don't miss any new episodes. You can also go check out our playmats and other merchandise at thecommandersquarters.com. We also have a ton of brand new t-shirt designs in stock, so make sure you check out those as well. Another easy way to support this show is with our TCG Player affiliate links. So whether you're buying a deck or individual cards, you can use this general link right here or one in the description. And the final way that you can support this show is by supporting us directly by becoming a patron. There are many benefits to being a patron, and I truly couldn't do this without all of their support.